Not sure if I'll be able to do it within an hour since I want to try sleeping early for once in my life. Yeah, 1 a.m. sleep. Early. Can I complete the entire quest in an hour?
Now, the reason why I feel like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring has aged pretty poorly in Yu-Gi-Oh is that what this card started out as is well, what it is, a hand trap. It was meant to give the player going second a better chance of preventing some things that the opponent was doing, and I think that is fundamentally a good idea. I think Yu-Gi-Oh as a game, I hope we can all agree that for 99.9% of Yu-Gi-Oh's lifespan, the player going first is favored. You know, it was always preferred to go first in Yu-Gi-Oh, with very few exceptions. You know, of course, they made decks like Tenpai, or more recently Gem Knights, or you know, in Necros format, because of Necros of Trishula, there was a period where you would make the opponent go first, stuff like that. But for the most part, with very few exceptions, going first is strong in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? And a lot of their job in Yu-Gi-Oh's design team is trying to make new cards and new archetypes, of course, that are more powerful than previous archetypes because we do not have rotation. So the only balancing tool that they have is the Forbidden Limited list, as well as the new archetypes that they make. So sometimes when they make archetypes too powerful, they hit them on the ban list, and then other times they just make more powerful archetypes. As a result, the player going first in Yu-Gi-Oh usually is at an advantage because decks are getting more and more powerful, and the player going first is the first one to resolve their cards, usually, right? That's, I think, the initial.
Here come the redeads, or excuse me, Gibdos. Nice shot. Don't let me, don't let me, don't let me down. Sure, I don't have a preset I have for this. This, and this. Fuck. Shouldn't have put that on a slope. Y'all think you can get out of the hive with no repercussions? sure are. Ugh, it's so gross. Triggering my ligophobia. Not ligophobia. Nyctophobia? No, not nyctophobia. That's the name of a fucking hentai horror game I just played recently. Trey! I missed!
Bulyara, well done holding the line until we were able to get here. Now that we know the Gibdos are susceptible to lightning, this gives us a major advantage.
Huh. Damn, Bulyara's got nice abs.
Is that Zelda? Real bad. Gerudo Town is in danger! Zelda, wait! She was heading directly toward those tornadoes. And if more Gibdos are hiding in the storm... Ulyara, we need to get back now. Link, we're going on ahead. I'll meet you in town.
Oh yeah, this upcoming scene is a personal favorite. Highlight for me. Similar to the climb to get to the Stormwind Arc Wind Temple.
Basak. Oh. Ah.
It's a fantastic quest. Oh, we're here.
Yeah! Sa!
I demand more arrows.
Yay! Yeah! Woohoo! Wow! Wow! Yay! Wow! Hey! Yay!
Man, another thing they doubled down on that I'm not very happy of is fucking Beetle's obsession with beetles and bugs and critters. He talks so fucking much. Shopping with him is so fucking annoying. We're gonna get a lot of Gibdo bones. And they're really good in the original game. Jesus, only 10? Used to be 50. It is one-time use, of course.
Saba. Huh.
Decorate with passion. You know, I don't think this is a quest I ever actually managed to complete. I did complete In quote, I obviously didn't get all the Koroks. More arrows. Lovely. And this is a bow. Suppose I'll replace the old one.
Masak.
Well, the Hydra melons shouldn't be rare soon enough. Once things manage to settle down. Alright, maybe I should restock up on emitters. This place that has flame and frost emitters, yeah, and beam emitters too. I also meant to expand my batteries a little while ago.
Reasoning for traps to exist in the first place, right? And I think as the Yu-Gi-Oh community has developed this kind of like general understanding of like, well, hand traps are healthy because the player going second should get a chance to interact with the player going first, and cards that negate hand traps like Called by the Grave and Cross Out Designator, or punish hand traps like Triple Tactics Talents by looking at their hand and taking away more copies of hand traps, generally are pretty powerful and benefit the player going first a lot, which is why a lot of people, myself included, always advocated for those cards being a bad design and not and they should be bad. You know, cards like Fall by the Grave, even though the player going second has a chance of using it on their own turn, of course, it disproportionately favors the player going first by taking interaction away from their opponent. And that is, of course, a problem. And of course, there's some decks that are older or have bigger choke points because they're not as power crept as newer archetypes, and so there is some older decks that rely on cards like Called by the Grave to negate the opponent's hand traps, but you know, keeping to go in the meta because it cannot beat like a simple Ash Blossom without access to Called by the Grave is not generally worth the trade-off of the top meta decks from these days also destroying the hand traps by the use of Called by the Grave. So, kind of like the core argument as to why I think Fault by the Grave is a card that type of effect
It's
is
good to
technically
focus on the present.
pretty bad to be in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because the player going first is already naturally favored to win the game. And so long, in my opinion, should be
Look to the past to guide the future,
more.
rather than being trapped in it. Fuck off.
Than the player going first. And that leads us to Ash Blossom's basically role in Yu-Gi-Oh! For the majority of its lifespan, which is that it was seen as one of the premier hand traps for the player going second, which is what it was when it came out. You know, it was a great card. A lot of decks had very meaningful Ash Blossom choke points, very powerful cards that the player going first would try to resolve. Let it be a Pot of Desires or a Card of Demise or anything of that nature. Or in a lot of combos, there was very important choke points, like an Isolt in a Goki combo or something like that, right? Where it was clear that there was one specific step of that combo or one specific powerful spell card that the player going second was able to stop, and therefore giving them a higher chance of winning than had they not had the Ash Blossom. And this is something that was why Blossom was such a good card for such a long time. However, the role of Ash Blossom has changed in recent years, and especially in 2024 and 2025. If you look at the current top tier decks in the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, or also the current top tier decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, this being the 3 top decks used by Ryan Yu to win the most recent Duelist Cup. It was
Ryan Yu again.
It was
Jesus.
Malice, and it was Monomet Ryzeal, whereas of course in the TCG at the moment, some of the top tier decks include also Malice, Vanquish Soul K9, Pure Yami, Yami Mitsurugi, and so on and so forth, as well as Draco Tail. The majority of these decks generally don't really have a huge choke point for Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring anymore. And this is natural because Ash Blossom was a card that was everywhere. So of course, in order to sell new archetypes, in order to design new archetypes that don't suffer as much from Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, they have simply made these decks that are better into Ash Blossom when they go first. There is almost no deck right now that gets consistently stopped by Ash Blossom when it goes first. Starting with stuff like Malice that doesn't even care about the card at all because the entire gimmick of the deck is banishing from the deck and then summoning from banished, which basically is a fancy way of summoning a monster from your deck, but it circumvents Ash Blossom completely. Or even decks like Ryzeal that started out having a clear choke point for Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, Ryzeal Duo Drive, where that immediately gets fixed one set after because they didn't want it to have that choke point apparently, which generally I think having choke points is a pretty healthy thing. But Star Ryzeal came out and now you could no longer safely hold your Ash Blossom for Ryzeal Duo Drive because they would just have Ryzeal cross beforehand and therefore completely invalidating Ash Blossom on Duo Drive. So you were left with basically one option and one option only, which is if they normal summon Ice Ryzeal, you just Ash it, and you hope your opponent does not have an extender. And guess what? That little mini game that you play with your opponent is not very interesting because when you Ash an Ice Ryzeal and they already have a Sword Ryzeal in hand, not only did you lose your Ash Blossom, but your opponent is also going to do basically the exact same combo that they were going to do anyways. Your Ash Blossom had 0 impact because you did not hit a choke point that they can't replace with another effect, right? If they have that extender, they are going to do all the things they were going to do anyways. But now you have 4 cards in hand instead of 5. That is an awful exchange, and it generally is considered, or I consider it to be bad gameplay. And this is something that is the case in so many other matchups. I mean, of course, you look at cards like K9 Noroi, you have no choice. You Ash Blossom that thing. Because if you don't Ash Blossom that K9 Noroi, then it summons another monster, that searches another monster, and that summons Ripper, which is literally made to negate Tantrum, right? So it's very apparent that with modern Yu-Gi-Oh decks, when you go second against them, Ash Blossom is a very, very mediocre way of handling any of their plays. You know, it is not reliable. The amount of hand traps that you have to draw to consistently stop these decks is absurd. In the example where you have an Ash Blossom against the Ice Ryzeal and they have a sword in hand, there is no other hand trap that you can really pair with that Ash Blossom to make it feel like you have meaningfully impacted their turn, unless it is a floodgate hand trap like Droll Lockbird, or it is a meaningful hand trap that doesn't trade just one for one, right? And that's the most important topic that we're going to get to, is also the Mold Charmies and what kind of role they play in this sort of exchange. But if you have another one for one trade hand trap like Effect Veiler or Infinite Impermanence in this scenario, you Ash the Ice Ryzeal, they special summon Sword, you Infirm the Sword, that's 2 level 4s, that still makes Duo Drive. So at this point you are trading exceptionally bad into the Ryzeal deck with your hand traps, right? Because they just keep going. They have a starter and an extender. You have 2 hand traps. They play through it like it's no more. And this is something that is very natural. You know, when they give us more hand traps that we play with, they make new archetypes that they want us to play. Then of course they're going to make them good into the type of non-engine that we will play. But that basically calls for more non-engine. Which is the sort of situation that we are in right now, of course. They have offered us other options in terms of non-engine.
Look at that.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is
Went from
headed in
pale
a direction
green to a
where non-engine
blue.
is changing. You know, we are no longer,
The
it's no longer
Sheikah have
just cards like
refined Zonai
Ash Blossom that
technology
we
into
have for going
something
second, but we
greater.
are getting new kind of cards in the Mold Charmies these days, and so on and so forth. And well, you might ask yourself, why are people even playing Ash Blossom if it is such a mediocre card for going second, which it genuinely is. It is a very mediocre card going second in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! You draw one Ash Blossom and a bunch of engine cards going second, the game is almost certainly lost. Which on the one hand is a problem with the power level that certain decks operate at, which this discussion is not really about, but that is also a valid argument. You know, decks are doing too much in certain circumstances. Obviously, you know, the Onomat Ryzeal or the Mitsurugi Yami deck or whatever, like some of those decks are definitely gifted with a little bit too high of a ceiling, 100%. That's not the topic of today's video, though. The topic is Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. So why are people playing Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring if it is such a mediocre card going second? So, well, the one reason, the first and smaller reason is that it's very versatile, and it is one of, even though it is not likely to work, it is still one of your best bets. You know, sometimes when your opponent plays a deck like Onomat Ryzeal, that does unthinkable things to you if you let one of their cards resolve, the best chance is trying to not let them resolve a card, which isn't very interesting gameplay-wise, and you literally pray every time you have just one Ash Blossom, you pray it's enough, just hit the first card and hope they pass, but sometimes it works. Sometimes it works, so like it's literally like you grasp that straw. You take it and you hope it works, but the more important reason is Ash Blossom is insane when you go first. Because what is one of the ways you can actually discourage your opponent from making that full board? It's Mold Charmies. And in Master Duel and OCG's world, it is Maxi, but that card should not be legal for another reason that we're going to talk about in a second. Mold Charmies do.
Come. Come. To where I am.
Now it's not time to think about weird voices in the sky telling you to come.
Oh. 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 Hmm. Oh.
Count on it.
Hip.
A mirror? We can make it work.
Oh. Hmm. Ah. Ah.
Yeah, the Gerudo weapons. A lovely set if I do say so myself. That's not very lovely though. Maybe I shouldn't have been too hasty on that broadsword. Could have been a Gerudo Scimitar. Of course, I was planning to get a Sword of the Sevens. Yeah, what do I have that's disposable right now? It feels really bad, but... yeah. Not doing anything with these since I'll be using these. Although, isn't it supposed to be the other shield, not that? Damn, what the fuck? Damn. Blood, you are not helping. Ow.
Eh? Hmm. Ah. Oh. 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 Hmm. Ah. Hmm. Oh. Hmm.
Don't worry, I've got good weapons.
Oh. Ah. Oh. Ah. Oh. 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 Oh.
Hmm. The plan is for me to focus.
Yeah.
I'll defend two gates. I'll let the Gerudo defend two gates, and then that'll let me focus entirely on one. I remember in a recent playthrough, I got relaxed and I found out you could actually lose here. I've taken a more measured approach in future playthroughs to ensure I'd have an easy time and not get swarmed. You spread your defenses too thin and it doesn't work out very well. You'll find very quickly. There are of course other random enemies to worry about other than just the Gibdos. So that'll be a problem, but we should be able to handle it. Westgate's all on me.
Hmm.
One last thing, a speed up. I'm not sure if I can pre-prepare Zonai devices. I'll err on the safe side. I'll have my own army of robots. Oh shit, I forgot to save. Whatever. Setting it up shouldn't take up too much time, but it will still be annoying. And besides, I'm just not gonna lose. Let's focus on this little war first, shall we? Wow, she's got a nice weapon.
Oh!
Monsters have appeared outside town. Shore up the defenses at the gate. Enemies have emerged from the hive at the east gate. Stop them. Enemies have been spotted inside town. Did they break through the gates? Enemies are pouring out of the hive near the north gate too. Take them out. Enemies are nearing the center of town. Prepare to attack.
Might be better if I just stay in the center then. I'm spreading myself too thin.
Enemies from the hive near the west gate. Let's hit it with lightning.
We've broken the wall already.
Flying enemies from the hive at the east gate. They're heading straight for us. Flying enemies from the hive at the
Aren't they-
north gate too. Don't let them overrun us.
Talk about a waste. I remember hearing something about using a scale to make sure they don't despawn. Or a star fragment.
Flying enemies from the west gate's hive. Time for a lightning strike or two.
Getting a little too close to the mistress. Or lady. Or chief. Yeah, it's still there.
Eliminate every enemy you see. We're the last line of defense.
You know, I might not lose, but the game could still very much crash. Isn't that just amazing? Damn it.
Exactly what I want non-engine to do in the current Yu-Gi-Oh environment. They benefit the player going second exclusively. If you go first, you cannot make use of both charms, and that is another thing with non-engine in general. With Yu-Gi-Oh decks being so good at going first naturally, I think non-engine is problematic when it is also really good to back up an already established pretty strong board. You know, when the player going first, you all know this. When the player going first drops an Abiru on you, or when the player going first has a Droll Lockbird in hand, or also sometimes as simple as just throwing an Ash Blossom next to your already pretty strong board, it feels often very, very hard to beat and sometimes completely unbeatable. Which, you know, in the case of Nibiru or Droll Lockbird, maybe some decks have solid plans into them when you go, like when they go first. You know, like maybe you are able to figure out a cool line to outplay Droll Lockbird on Nibiru when you are able to go first, but when your opponent goes first and makes any kind of board and has these cards in hand, it just becomes borderline impossible. And I think this is one of the most important things about the Molcharmies is that they do not work when you already have a board, and I think that is a very important factor when we're looking at non-engine design for the future of Yu-Gi-Oh! I understand that some decks are hit harder by Charmies than others, but this is a very natural process in Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, sometimes new non-engine comes out and some decks are bad into it, and that's why they phase out. That does not necessarily mean Molcharmies are badly designed just because some rogue decks died to them. You know, there's just as many rogue decks that can't play through an Ash Blossom. But Charmies inherently do a couple of pretty cool things. First of all, they work only going second, which I think is very important, like I just said. But they also don't just negate a card. I think this type of, and this is something that I guess doesn't get talked about enough. At the moment, this sort of like Ash Blossom, Impulse, Imperm, Veiler, whatever gameplay, I personally, and this is subjective, you can let me know what you think about this, but I find it very uninteresting if the way you win going second is to just trade 1-for-1 hand traps with your opponent's starters, and you basically just say, like, hey, I got 3 hand trap negates. How many starters you got? Oh, is that just 2? Well, I guess you're not playing the game. And then sometimes you're like, oh, I just have 2 hand traps. How many starters you got? Oh, 3? I guess I lose. Because as soon as you resolve a card, that's going to lead you to so much card advantage. And I now only have 3 cards left in hand. I'm going to draw a 4th card, but I don't think I can overcome what you do after all that. So I guess you win. I think it's not interesting. So I think one of the
my game
honestly,
plan
this
is
a
going
result
to
of
be to
Yu-Gi-Oh's design philosophy
just
changing
focus on
over the years.
defending
You know, this is a it's
the
not
back
I don't think
line.
it's a cycle. I think it's more like a progression. You know, like we had games, we had decks once upon a time that had meaningful trope points, where cards like Ash Blossom and Imperm could be used in meaningful ways, where you would let the opponent play a little bit, get to a certain part of their board, then Ash a key thing or Imperm a key thing on their end board, and there was a fine game of Yu-Gi-Oh! To be played. That is not really where we are right now. I think most Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks just do too much for you to hold these cards for certain points, for certain interactions. These days, 99% of the time, the right point to use your hand traps is as early as possible and hope they don't play, and I think that is not interesting.
Monsters have appeared outside town. Shore up the defense. Is at the gate. marched from the hive at the east gate. Stop them. Enemies are pouring out of the hive near the north gate too. Take them out. Enemies from the hive near the west gate. Let's hit it with lightning. Enemies have been spotted inside town. Did they break through the gates? Flying enemies from the hive at the east gate. They're heading straight for us. Flying enemies from the hive at the north gate too. Don't let them overrun us. Flying enemies from the west gate hive. Time for a lightning strike or two.
Jesus Christ.
Eliminate every enemy. The last line is ready.
we be trying to go for the hive yet? It's still not vulnerable. Liara's got a fucking dragon horn. Didn't know she was also pure of heart. Oh, this one's open. Right, it's whenever they spawn. Alright, alright, alright.
The last of the hives. All we have to do now is clear out the rest of the Gibdos.
How'd you like some water in the desert? I'm not Leon S. Kennedy, that's for sure. Who else is left? Hello? What the fuck? What remaining monsters? Oh, there's one there. What a coward. Bro thought you could run and hide. Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Oh?
Oh. Sabota. Oh.
Hell yeah, the Gibdo wings are really good. Just the eyeballs, they're so damn rare now.
Oh. Ah.
What?
Ah. Wah. Oh. Hmm.
Bart is fucking great.
Oh. Oh. Ah. Oh. 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 Sabak. Ah. Hmm. Ah.
So true.
Oh. Ah.
Mm.
Oh. Oh.
Agreeable, although I sustained minimal injuries. Thanks to my skillful maneuverability, maneuvering, movement, whatever.
Basak.
I did good.
So.
And I'm the best.
So,
Yeah, I got stumped by this puzzle. There's another puzzle if you in the Zora quest. They're primarily navigation tests of your navigation. Motherfucker. Whatever. I'm done. I'm going to bed.